Everyone has heard the tale, the grand and sweeping saga of the Northmen. It has a story whispered in the roar of the sea and the crackle of a winter fire, a vision of dragon-prowed ships emerging like ghosts from the morning mist, their crews hungry for silver and renown. We imagine the clinking of foreign coins in the half-light, and we hear the legends of entire fortunes from across the known world vanishing without a trace into the deep, silent canyons of the Norwegian fjords. For 1,000 long years, this was little more than a campfire story, a romantic myth passed down through generations. It was history softened into legend, until the day a simple archaeologist's trowel, working a site in Årdal, scratched against something solid and metallic. There, buried deep beneath the soot-blackened floorboards of a long-vanished and ruined farmstead, that single, unassuming scrape of metal on metal echoed across the centuries. In that one instant, it began to rewrite the history we thought we knew, pulling the age of myth back into the harsh light of reality. To truly understand, you must picture it. Conjure in your mind one single frantic afternoon in the chaotic heart of the 9th century. Imagine the world dissolving into terror and flame. Acrid smoke boils up from the turf roof of a coastal longhouse, thick and choking, blotting out the Nordic sun. Through the haze, the air is torn apart by the sounds of screaming, of splintering wood, and the clash of steel. In this maelstrom of violence, someone, a woman of high status, a chieftain's wife, perhaps realizes that all is lost. With moments to spare, driven by a desperate hope of one day returning, she grabs a fortune in portable wealth, 4 fat, heavy silver bracelets. She pries up a floorboard, jams them into the cool, dark earth underneath, and kicks the dirt back over them, just as the blazing roof above finally gives way and caves in. Now, let your mind race forward across 1,100 years of silence. The longhouse is gone, burned to the soil and reclaimed by nature. The farm is now just a gentle, grassy hump on the landscape, its story forgotten. But the bracelets are still there, hidden in the earth, tarnished by time, but otherwise perfect, their intricate patterns and heft waiting patiently in the dark. In 2023, after more than a millennium of solitude, their moment finally came. This wasn't the magic of Hollywood CGI, no fantasy epic brought to life. It was just cold ash, packed dirt, and the sudden, brilliant flash of an archaeologist's head torch picking out the unmistakable, cool shine of buried silver. The Vikings who skillfully nosed their longships into the labyrinthine network of these fjords were far more complex figures than the one-dimensional brutes of popular legend. They were not only raiders, but also pioneers of a sprawling and sophisticated global trade network. You could almost think of them as a 9th century version of FedEx, but with finely honed axes and an intimidating reputation. Their ships were the engines of a vast economy, moving precious and exotic goods across immense distances. Imagine them carefully loading priceless walrus ivory, sourced from the freezing dangers of the high Arctic, onto their vessels. Picture them bartering for shimmering bolts of silk that had traveled all the way from the opulent docks of Byzantine Constantinople, or exchanging furs and amber for saddlebags, heavy with silver dirhams, coins minted in the sun-drenched, cosmopolitan bazaars of Baghdad. This was their ready cash, their portable wealth. So, when unexpected trouble inevitably showed up on the horizon, whether in the form of feuding local chieftains with a score to settle, bitter family grudges erupting into violence, or simply a wicked, ship-splintering storm descending upon the coast, they had to act fast. Their solution was brilliantly simple. They stashed their wealth where only the circling Gauls and the silent mountains could spy on it. The ancient sagas, the great epic poems of the North, even have a nickname for these secret caches. They call them Gulfjol, which literally translates to gold mountains. For centuries, historians and treasure hunters alike have debated the meaning. Was it just a poetic turn of phrase, a cruel joke played on future generations? Or was it something more? Was it a map, hidden in plain sight? Today, the quest to answer that question continues, but the tools of the trade have evolved dramatically. Modern archaeologists have swapped their predecessors, longships and shovels for cutting-edge technology like LiDAR drones that can map the ground in breathtaking detail, and powerful ground-penetrating radar that allows them to see through the earth itself. At the Årdal site in Hjälmeland, the archaeological team initially had modest expectations. They were anticipating the faint outlines of post holes, maybe a few scattered and broken pottery bits, the humble domestic remnants of a simple farming life. Instead, when they deployed the radar over the site of the old farm, the screen suddenly lit up like Christmas lights, revealing a dense, metallic anomaly concealed directly beneath the foundations of the main farmhouse. After careful excavation, there they were, nestled together at about chest height in the foundation wall. 4 magnificent bracelets, each weighing more than 100 grams of nearly pure silver. They were ring-punched with tiny, intricate crosses and complex, braided patterns, clear indicators of immense value and artistry. These were the kind of adornments that high-status women would have worn as a public display of their family's wealth and power. Yet they also served a more practical purpose for merchants, who would often chop them into smaller pieces, known as hack silver, to make everyday payments, perhaps for a barrel of beer or a sack of barley. The excavation uncovered more of the story. Scorched grains and bent iron arrowheads also turned up in the same layer of soil silent. Inanimate bystanders who bore witness to a violent raid that forced someone to hide their most precious possessions with desperate speed, and then, tragically, never returned to reclaim them. But the deep, cold fjords of Norway don't just hide portable treasures like silver. They are also the final resting places of entire ships, monumental vessels swallowed by the earth itself. Travel to the town of Fjords, and you will see the Myklebust Mound. It looms over a narrow inlet of the fjord, its colossal form standing against the sky like a silent, eternal watchtower. This sacred ground was first dug into by antiquarians in the 1800s, but it has been revisited recently with the new technological toys of modern archaeology. The evidence unearthed from thousands of iron rivets to the ghostly imprint of charred timbers adds up to a vessel of truly epic proportions. The reconstruction suggests a 30-meter monster of a ship, a sleek and powerful vessel that was even bigger and more imposing than the world-famous Gokstad ship. This wasn't a sunken wreck, it was a tomb. Inside the layers of ash and earth, archaeologists found the cremated bone fragments of its owner, a powerful chieftain sent to the afterlife in a blaze of glory. Alongside him were the melted, warped remains of delicate glass beads. And even now, the soil carries the faint, nose-wrinkling stink of ancient tar used to seal the hull. This was a chieftain being kitted out for one final spectacular voyage into the great beyond. The mound's presence is so powerful that it has seeped into local folklore. Even today, some locals who live by the water's edge claim that on breezeless, still summer nights, if you listen carefully enough, you can still hear the phantom sound of oars biting into the dark water, pulling the great ship towards an unseen shore. The greatest treasures aren't always the most cinematic. They aren't always gleaming swords or massive silver bracelets. Sometimes, history-altering treasure is no bigger than your pinky nail. High on a windswept hill above the Trondheim Fjord, archaeologists excavating a 10th century grave made just such a discovery. It wasn't a hoard of gold, but a small, unassuming leather purse that had crumbled to dust over the centuries, leaving its contents behind. Tumbled together in the dirt were 23 wafer-thin Islamic silver dirhams, a couple of polished agate stones, and a single, crudely chopped chunk that had been hacked off a larger silver bracelet. This small collection tells a colossal story. Every single one of those coins is stamped with elegant Arabic script, bearing the name of a distant caliph from an Islamic empire. Their very presence in a Norwegian grave is astonishingly clear proof that the Vikings were not isolated pirates. but were deeply wired into a sprawling world market that stretched thousands of miles, all the way to the shores of the Caspian Sea and the heartlands of the Middle East. Even more remarkable is the fact that chemical analysis and dating revealed the coins were freshly minted when they were buried. This small detail provides a powerful insight into the life of the grave's occupant. The dead man, or perhaps woman, must have come straight home from a very recent and very distant adventure, carrying the latest currency from the edge of the known world, only to be laid to rest with their exotic earnings shortly after their return. This brings us to the most human questions of all, the great mysteries that archaeology can only begin to answer. Why did no one ever return for those 4 perfect silver bracelets at Årdal? They were hidden, not lost, their location surely seared into someone's memory. And why would a community torch a perfectly good, incredibly valuable ship like the one at Myklebust in a massive funeral pyre? The answers likely lie in the widespread chaos of the late 9th century. You have to blame the sheer mess of the era. Petty kings were constantly scrapping for land and loyalty, turning neighbor against neighbor in a relentless cycle of violence. The climate was also a factor, with tales of crazy, unpredictable weather flattening vital crops and leading to widespread famine and desperation. And to top it all off, fresh-faced Christian missionaries were beginning to arrive from the south, making locals fundamentally rethink their allegiance to the old gods and the ancient ways. In such a volatile world, stashing your wealth was a form of insurance, a desperate gamble that you might survive the current crisis and one day return to reclaim your future. A burning ship, however, was something else entirely. It was a billboard, a spectacular and terrifying declaration of power meant for all to see. This chieftain was mighty, his people are strong, and this land is ours back off. And what about the act of forgetting? That only happened much, much later. The forgetting came slowly. After the epic sagas were finally written down centuries after the events they described, when the farms had been given fresh names and the fjords had new landlords, and the precise locations of buried fortunes and smoldering tombs had faded from living memory into the mists of folklore. If you have ever stood on the deck of a ferry as it glides through the deep green waters of a Norwegian fjord, and you've drifted past a solitary farm tucked precariously beneath a towering granite cliff and wondered to yourself, what secrets are sleeping just under that turf? Then you should know you are in very good company. That same question drives every archaeologist and historian dedicated to this remarkable period of history. It's the question that fuels our channel. So if you want to be part of the discovery, hit that subscribe button and make sure to ring the notification bell. Next month, our journey takes us south, bound for the historic region of Vestfold. There, another tantalizing radar blip has appeared on our screens, an anomaly in the soil that looks suspiciously like the unmistakable, curving outline of a dragon-headed prow. The data is fresh, the ground is unbroken, and the mystery is waiting. We might just need your eyes on the data as we try to piece together the next chapter of this incredible story. Don't miss the chance to be there right alongside us as we begin to dig. For 1,000 years, the majestic fjords of Norway kept their secrets locked away, their silence turning verifiable human history into the stuff of legend, transforming true stories of desperation and power into a beautifully stark and empty landscape. But now, in our time, every careful scrape of a trowel against the soil, every pulse of light from a ground-penetrating radar, risks waking the past from its long slumber. The past is returning, piece by gleaming piece. The Årdal bracelets, once hidden in panic and darkness, already gleam under the cool, sterile LED lights of a display case at the Stavanger Museum, their story now told to thousands. Yet their discovery is just the beginning. Just down the coast from that very spot, and scattered all across the country, dozens of unopened barrows and unexcavated farmsteads still wait, their contours softened by time, wrapped in the shifting fjord fog, in the deep green of midsummer grass. Somewhere, Buried deep under those silent hills, more hoards lie exactly where desperate, trembling fingers left them more than a millennium ago. These treasures are not just silver and gold. They are living proof that the Vikings were not only fearless sailors and terrifying raiders, but were also grand masters of the vanishing act. Their secrets so well kept that we are only just now beginning to find them again.